My name is Jen Scherze, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar focused on a new online course for nursing informatics developed by our partner, Junction Education. Today, I'm joined by Derek Wessler. He's the co-founder and VP of Sales and Marketing for Junction Education.
Thanks, Jen. Appreciate it. And thank you to everybody on the line. Certainly appreciate your time this afternoon or this morning. So what we're going to go through today, a couple of steps. I'll talk a little bit about Junction and the company and what we've done, a little bit about the course, the Nursing Informatics course that we put together. We'll then spend most of our time going through the demo itself and showing you what students see, what instructors see, the features and functionality of the course. And then we'll leave some questions at the end. I urge you, as questions come up, you can put them in the chat. We'll be monitoring the chat function throughout. So if something comes up, you don't need to hold the question until the end. Feel free to drop it into the chat for the organizers as you see fit. A little bit about Junction. Junction is an adaptive courseware platform. It was started to make learning simpler and easier. And that was basically where it came from. I am one of the co-founders. My other co-founder and I, we both spent, between the two of us, about a dozen years at McGraw-Hill working on some of the products which you may be familiar with, Connect, Learn Smart, Alex, a number of the digital products that you're seeing that are fairly prevalent in higher education. And we were constantly challenged with this notion that digital learning needs to be making education cheaper and better. And we felt that a lot of the products that we were seeing in the market just weren't doing that. And we started Junction with that goal in mind: make learning cheaper and better using digital tools, mostly to simplify the experience. We've been in market for about 5 years. We have a number of open educational resource courses out in the market, and we've put hundreds of thousands of students through those courses. We are Gates Foundation approved. We are an OLC award winner. And we are now really pleased to be partnering with Jones Bartlett Learning, taking some of their courses, including Nursing Informatics, and bringing them online through the Junction platform. A little bit about the Nursing Informatics course itself. And we're going to click through all of this. So as questions come up, or as ideas come up, you'll see these as we click through the demo. The Nursing Informatics course is complete coursework. And what we mean by that is it includes all of the things you will need to deliver this course: introductory videos, the textbook reading, practice activities, assessment items, low stakes and high stakes assessment items, in-class presentations. We've done everything we can to allow this to be the single place that a student needs to go to learn this material, and you as an instructor need to go to gain access to see what your students are actually doing. The course was designed to improve student engagement, and we'll talk a little bit as we get into the course about the material that is in there and how the material has been sequenced for your students to give things to them in a very logical progression. And it's also been designed to simplify your life as an instructor. We know for instructors that there's so many things that you have to do to manage your cohort of students, whether it be figuring out who's logged in, who's struggling, who needs extra help. We're trying to automate as many of those things for you as possible, so you can spend time helping students rather than figuring out which students need to be helped. And as we click through this, you'll see a lot of this. This is done through the interface. This is done through the content. There's a number of videos in each of these. This is done through some of the features and functions, such as self-grading assignments, so students can actually help themselves. And just a very simple experience. So making things as easy as possible. And we operate under the notion that most app developers do today, which is that if you need instructions for your users, you've probably developed something too complex. So we've kept everything as simple as possible. With that, I'm going to open up the product demo. So I'm switching here into my web browser, and what you are seeing now in front of you is the course homepage for Nursing Informatics and the Foundation of Knowledge. This is my course as an instructor. So each of you that are watching, you would get your own instance of this course. Your students would enroll in this, they would see each other in that specific section, and you would have the opportunity to customize this as you like. And we could talk about the customization options and customization parameters that you can use. It's as simple as reordering and removing to completely adding new content if that's something that you would like. The first thing to notice, right, a very simple interface, and you'll see that the course is laid out, right, each of these that you're seeing here, right, the sections and then the modules here, these are chapters of the textbook. And you'll see that these match, if you're familiar with the textbook and you're a current user of the textbook, these match exactly to the current textbook. So if you're currently a textbook adopter, moving to the courseware is very simple. And that was very important for us when we built this, is make sure that those of you that are very familiar with this and like the content and use the content can make a seamless shift to the courseware. You don't need to think about redoing your syllabus, redoing quizzes, or things like that. This view is the same whether you are looking at it on a laptop, a tablet, or a phone. The application is responsive. It's built in HTML5, so if you're on a phone, things will reflow and things will stack appropriately. But it's the same experience on a phone as it is on a tablet as it is on a laptop. You'll also notice when we talk about complete courseware, I have my tab here down at the bottom, and when I click on that, this is my Instructor Resources tab. I am an instructor in this course, so I see my Instructor Resources tab, as you can when you gain access to the course. And all of the different things you need, your instructor's manual, the correlation guide, syllabus information, are right here within Junction, within the courseware. So again, we're trying to make things as simple as possible for you. So let's assume we're in week 4 going through cognitive science and cognitive informatics. As a learner, I simply click on my lesson, and I'm taken now into my lesson. This is likely a week of content for most of you. If you're running a different kind of schedule, it may not be, but this is one chapter's worth of material. A couple things to note. This looks very similar to the course homepage. We try to keep things as simple as possible because we don't want the interface to get in the way of learning. We want the interface to be as clean and simple as possible and allow students to figure out what they're actually supposed to be doing. Second, all of the lessons, all of the chapters in this courseware follow the same structure and look and feel. So by week 3, your students have already figured out what goes where. They figured out the orders of things. If they like a particular kind of resource, they'll be able to jump right to it. Again, we want to make this as simple and easy as possible. And again, this is entirely customizable. So if you had things that you wanted to add to a particular lesson, you can do so. And we can talk about that if that's something of interest. In this lesson, I mentioned earlier that things are sequenced in a way that makes sense for students. And I will click through these pages so you can see what's behind them. It begins for students with an introduction and an interactive lecture. Get students acclimated to the new material easily, in a fun way. Then give them some videos. Videos, and again, I'll show you these videos, designed to just engage students quickly. They're out on YouTube watching videos anyway. We'd rather have them here watching curated videos that we've gone through and that are selected and are appropriate, rather than having them off somewhere on YouTube or on Google. They then get the textbook reading. Then they move into practice activities. So we do follow a learn, practice, assess model. So there's the learning material, and then there's the practice material. Flashcards, a practice quiz. You'll see I have 3 instances of what we call thought-provoking questions. These are the questions that come out of the instructor's guide. And I'm going to show you that there are 3 different ways that you can implement these questions in your course if you'd like: a written response way, an audio response way, and a discussion way. If this were not a demo, you would not have the same question 3 times, but I'm going to show you how that can work. Submitted assignments, lecture slides, and a quiz. So all sequenced in a way that a student would go through this, ready for you to use. All you would need to do is press play. So let's go through some of the material. And we'll begin with our introduction and our interactive lecture. First thing to note, that this material is Jones Bartlett curated material. This is created by Jones Bartlett. This is the material that if you've previously adopted this course, you may have seen on a web share somewhere. This material often does not make it to students, and it's very, very good. It's stuff that is really helpful to students. But this is high quality Jones Bartlett material. The interactive presentation, as you'll see, students will click through this. It is a little bit more interactive than a PowerPoint, but it's essentially a slideshow that students will click through. And you'll see that if I open this up here, you can see that this is in total, it's about 13 or 14 slides worth of material. There's some summaries and bibliographies at the end. So this is not a long activity. This is something that a student can start to use, click through, interactive, so it's a little more engaging than a long reading. And it's something that a student can click through to get themselves acclimated to the new terms in the lesson, the new concepts in the lesson. It does not give them the depth of knowledge that a textbook reading would, for certain, but it does introduce these new concepts to them in an easy, familiar way. And if you think about how your students are learning today, they might be on the bus. They might have 15 minutes in between classes or a little bit of time after lunch. And being able to jump right into the course and have this material at their hands without having to go through multiple links and multiple sign-ins is really helpful for them. And as you can see the material here, I'll just click through a couple of the slides if you're not familiar with it. It goes through the material, and there's also some low-stakes assessments in here where students can just come through and immediately check their answers. But again, something just to engage students that's a little bit more interesting than just a flat read. When students are ready to move on, they have a couple of ways to navigate the course. The first, you'll see I have my menu button up in the upper left corner, and you'll see that from here, I can actually navigate to any page within the entire course if I chose. So if I was already in the middle of something and I was studying for a midterm and I know I needed to jump around, I could do that there. I can use my breadcrumb buttons at the top of the page, which are going to show me how far into my lesson I am. So they're going to give me a very quick view of progress. Most likely, I simply click the next button, which you can see here. And that takes me to the video page. The video page, as you'll see, we've broken down the videos. And in this case, there are 6 videos. Some lessons have more, some lessons have less, but it's usually somewhere in the range of about 3 to 6. Have videos broken down by key topics. And these are the key topics that you will see in this particular text. And they're aligned for students against these particular themes. The videos you'll see as you're clicking through, you may have seen, they're all relatively short. We know that students will watch videos for about 3 to 5 minutes. When you start getting longer than that, they start to drop off. The videos, as you can see, I'll play one shortly for you here.
Every day, a large portion of the population has immersed in online technology. Actually, that's what it is. Artificial intelligence. How I found has been harder and an input. Textbook generation wants to get the world rules.
So as part of this particular lesson, there's material on artificial intelligence and how that actually plays into nursing informatics and how that's actually manifesting itself in the real world. So we're giving students these short videos to actually go ahead and get more comfortable with the concepts. Again, these do not substitute for the textbook. They're in no way designed to go to the same level of depth as a textbook, but we know that students watch lots and lots of videos. And whether they're incorporated in the courseware or not, students are going to be going to these videos. So for us, we believe that bringing them in and curating them so learners can go right here and not go to YouTube and find God knows what is a much better way to learn. And your students are more likely to do this if it's actually presented to them here. When students are done, they then click to the next learning activity. And this is the textbook. You'll notice that the textbook takes me right to the chapter that I need to go to. So again, minimizing this cognitive drag, if you will, where if I had to go open a different app and then open my ebook and log in and figure out what chapter I was supposed to go to, there's a lot of drag there. There's a lot of reasons in that process that may get a student to say, you know what, I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to do it right now. We'll do something later. Simply allowing them to click next and come directly to chapter 4. Very, very simple for them. This is an embedded ebook. So a couple of things to note. The entire ebook comes with the courseware. So it is complete. If students purchase the Junction courseware, they do not need to buy a print book. The entire ebook is here for them. 2, all of these features that you'd expect to see in an ebook are here. So if I want to highlight things as an example, I could highlight here, I could copy things, I can navigate my entire ebook through my table of contents as an example. So all of the things that you would expect to see in an ebook are here. Very simple for students, allows them to search, allows them to just come to one place and access all the material that they need. As you can see, I can simply come through right here and just keep reading my text as I like. I am going to stop here for just a moment talking about content, and I do want to talk about some of the features in Junction, because, and I'm doing this here because this is where we actually see students use a lot of the additional features that sit outside the specific content experience. And what I mean by that is you'll see a number of options that you have up across the top here, and I'm going to talk through those. First, the assist button. So as you'll see, I can click my assist button and I'm given help immediately. So if I say, well, I need to find out where my grades are, I have help right here. I can search for right where are my grades, and I get an article here about where do I find my test scores on my grades. So one, it eliminates students right from saying, hey, I didn't know how to do something, so I just stopped studying. Two, it stops students from asking you, the instructor, because you frankly aren't experts in the courseware and you shouldn't be experts in the courseware. So we're giving students the ability to help themselves. If for whatever reason they cannot find an answer here, they have the ability to start a conversation. We have a help team that's here to support them. So as students come through, we'll help them in chat, in the application. We know what pages they're on, we know what browsers they're using, so it makes it very easy for us to help. To be honest, we actually get very few help calls because we find that the application is very simple to use and lightweight, and students actually figure this out. But if they do need it, it is there for them. Second is messaging. So students, as you can see, this list will populate with all of the students that are registered in your section. If it's something that you want to shut off, we can. So if you want to shut off messaging, you can. But we allow students to see all of the other students in their sections. This is great for online or hybrid sections when students may not be sitting next to each other and they may not know who's in their class. It's also a really nice function because it means that students don't need to share their email addresses or their phone numbers. So if I have another student in the class, right, I can message them right here, right? Can you help? I can send them a message. You'll also notice I've got my camera here. So this is both text message, which I can send like that, or video message, which I can send as well. So if I wanted a video chat, I can do one-to-one video chat with other students in my class. I have my notes panel. So if I had a note on this page, and I wanted to say, yep, I want to take a note because something came up in this text that I want to remember, I can take my note right here. My notes panel is tied to each particular page, so it changes page to page. So it is very context specific. Students tell us they really like this because if they take notes in a notebook, they say, well, yeah, I mean, I had class Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and then my notes are completely out of order. And sometimes it's on paper, and sometimes it's on a Google Doc. Doing it here means that it's in the application, and it also means that if they go to their course notebook, you'll see here that I have notes now against the number of pages within my course. And you'll see that they're auto-outlined for me. So as I go back and I take more notes, they're right here for me. And if I see a note, I say, oh yeah, I remember what I needed to do. I can simply click there and come right back to the page that I was on. So it helps keep students organized. A search function. So we know and we see this behavior all the time that students, especially as they get further into a class, week 9, week 10, they may have forgotten some of the concepts that they learned in week 2 or week 3. So we give them the search bar and allows them to then, to come back and put in some sort of search term and jump right back to another place in the course. So if I search for rationalism, it will tell me where that appears in the course, and then I can navigate there as a student. It makes it much easier for me to move around the application. Students have access to a glossary, so they come across terms that they don't know, and this is obviously a searchable glossary, so they can come through and they can search for things as they like. And then a feature that we see more and more instructors using is an instructor office hours. So as you can see, I'm now sharing. So if there were other people in this course, they'd be able to come in, other students. You as the instructor could manage online office hours. Other students would come in and they'd simply show up in more windows here in the application. All done right here. You can share screens. You can have chat associated with it. So you'll see here, you as an instructor, you can share your screen if you wanted to talk through a specific topic. Students can raise and lower their hands. You can have a chat. But this allows you online office hours. And we know as you're trying to help your learners and your students, it's not that easy for them to always show up to your office. So being able to say, hey, let's meet at 4 o'clock, wherever you are, let's just jump onto the online office hours. We can have a face-to-face chat. Really nice feature. Also something that we hear all the time from online instructors. They don't know what their students look like, and they never get to see them face-to-face. And if you have a struggling student, being able to see them face-to-face is really important. and is a good way to actually help them. It gives them the opportunity to see the instructor, put a face to what might be a voice in the video, and allow them to progress. So continuing on, moving into some of the practice activities. So a number of practice activities that students can use. These are optional practice activities. Flashcards that students can go through and practice. And students do have a lot of options here. They can change study modes. They can do lots of different things. It's a very nice tool. This is actually embedded Quizlet, which is one of the most popular flashcard tools that students are using. So we give it to them right here, and these are all of the terms from this particular lesson. Continuing to the next page, we give students practice quizzes. So obviously, assessment for assessment's sake is great, and it's a great way for you to know what your students know and what they don't know. But assessment for learning's sake is also really helpful. So you'll see on this page, we've broken down this lesson into each of the chapters of the textbook. So these are the subtopics, or the A-heads, if you will, within the textbook, all of the sub-chapters. And you'll see that learners can go through and they can see questions specifically aligned to each one of those very discrete sub-chapters. And they can go through and they can check their answers immediately. So if it's one right, and you'll see that a student's checked the wrong answer, they'll get immediate feedback on what's right or wrong. It allows them to figure out what they know and what they don't know in a very low-stakes environment. This often is never submitted to the instructor, so it's a great tool for students. Low stakes, nobody's watching, very easy for them. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to back up for just one moment before I talk about the next set of activities. So as I mentioned previously, what we've done, and you'll see that we've gone through the textbook reading, the flashcards, the practice quiz, and we're now at this question right here. If you're familiar with the instructor guide with this course, you'll notice that there are a number of what are called thought-provoking questions aligned to each chapter. And there's anywhere from, I'd say, probably 2 to 5 against every particular chapter. Those thought-provoking questions have been loaded into Junction in 3 different ways. One is a written response, one is an audio response, and one is a discussion board. And I'll click through these so you can see what they look like. The goal here is to allow you as an instructor to view that instructor resource guide. If you choose, you can pick some of those thought-provoking questions, any of the ones that you like, they're all loaded, to deliver to your students. And you can not only choose which question you want to deliver, but you can choose which format you would like to deliver it in. So as an example, my written response question. And you'll see here that the question is, how would you describe cognitive informatics? Reflect on a plan of care that you would develop for patients. How could cognitive informatics be used to create tools to help with or support this important work? This is a written response. The students are going to submit this to you, the instructor. You can make this graded, you can make this not graded, you could assign points, you can do whatever you like with this. But students will submit this right here. So written response, so that's an option for you. If you would like to use different options, you could choose the audio response. So as you'll see here, this is the same question. So you wouldn't deliver the written response, the audio response, and the discussion board. You'd choose one. But in this case, students will be asked to record their answer. So you're actually going to hear their voice, and you as the instructor could listen to their voice, replay it, and give them a grade. Or you don't need to give them a grade. It's entirely up to you. But this is a way where it can make it a little bit more personal. And if you actually have questions where it might be something around how would you address a patient, how would you talk to a patient, what are some of the messages you might deliver, using audio response is a good way to evaluate it. It's also something that's a little bit different for students. So you might get a little bit more thoughtfulness in terms of what they're actually going to say. And then the third option is a discussion board. This is a very straightforward discussion board. Students would simply post their remarks here. And I'm going to go ahead and post that. You'll see that when I add here, I can not only format, I could add links, I can add images, I could add things of that nature. Your students can reply to each other's responses and things of that nature. This is a nice feature if you're concerned about having too much to grade. So if you have 100 students in a section and you don't want to have to grade all the written work, you can use a discussion board, which is much simpler to grade or doesn't necessarily even need to be graded. can be simply graded on participation. So 3 different options. And again, what you would do is you would simply select which one of them you wanted to use, if any. So the selection, again, all of the thought-provoking questions that you see in the instructor manual are loaded in and ready to use. You simply need to decide which questions and which format, click publish on those, and then those are ready for your students. They're automatically added to your gradebook if you set them as graded, and they're ready to go. You may have also noticed as part of the course there's an assignment loaded into each of the chapters. So this is a way to, again, keep things simple, keep students in the same application. This is the assignment that was given for this particular chapter and lesson. This is a written assignment. If you want, you can have students submit long-form written work here, and you can grade it that way. Or you can have students just click upload a file, and then they would just go through and upload a file off their desktop. Excuse me. And then they would submit those files to you, whether they be Microsoft Word or PowerPoint or whatever it might be. And you can then download those, grade those, and give students a score right here. Finally, the last two elements in this particular chapter. So the lecture slides. These are the Jones and Bartlett lecture slides that are ready for students to click through. You can, so we see with lecture slides, if you wanted to schedule these, meaning, you don't lecture on this until, say, September 8th, you could lock this page so students would not have access to it until September 8th, so you can schedule it. You can edit it, so if you had your own PowerPoint and you wanted to use your own PowerPoint instead of this PowerPoint, you're welcome to. You can edit it and adjust that, no problem. And for those of you that also want to deliver the in-class presentation after the quiz, so right now you'll see that my quiz is next, and the quiz is the last thing in line for my students. Some people like to give the quiz before the in-class presentation, and that's fine. That can be adjusted too. They would simply be reordered, and students would see the quiz first. And then finally, the quiz itself. So you've seen the assessment engine and how assessments are actually delivered. Obviously, you have the ability to make assessments graded or not graded. So for these end of lesson higher stakes assessments, they would be set to graded. You can control the number of submissions. So if you wanted to give students one submission, or if you wanted to give them multiple submissions, you would allow them to do that. You can set time limits. You can control when answers are released and if answers are released. So if you had an assessment, you said, I don't want any of the answers to show up until Friday night at midnight because that's when the assessment's due, you have the control to do that. You also have the ability to accept late assignments. So if you, as an example, said this was due Friday at midnight, but you actually wanted to leave the assessment open for students to take until, say, the following Wednesday, you could do that. The late submissions are scored as a 0 unless you as an instructor choose to accept them. So we hear from instructors all the time that as soon as something is due, the flurry of emails show up, hours later. Can you reopen? Can you reopen? Now, this is a way to allow something to stay reopened if you would like, and then you can make a decision on whether or not you're willing to accept it at some point later on. So what I'm going to do now, that is the student experience. The lessons are all similar. They all follow the same structure. They all follow the same sequence. So you get a sense of what the lessons are like. I'm now going to move to the instructor dashboard. Now you'll notice that this is a demo dashboard. This is for a U.S. history course. The dashboard in the Nursing Informatics course, because it only has one student, is not particularly interesting to look at. So this has dummy data in it, but we'll give you a sense of what the dashboard looks like once students get into the course and start working. We built the dashboard to try to answer a couple of questions simply and easily for instructors. And then we have, graphs upon graphs that we know instructors don't want to see. So we've tried to boil it down to the simplest thing. And what we hear from instructors all the time are 2 questions. First is, what % of my students are on track to pass this course? So first, Learn Engage will tell you not only the average score in your class, but how those students are actually breaking down by score. So looking at this, I could very quickly see that I have 4 students who are scoring less than 69% or less than 70%. So it gives me a very quick visual. Most things on this page are clickable. So I can click here and I can see all of my students in this class. Start with Albert Einstein and all of Galileo, my terrific class here, right? And I can see very quickly my scores for each of my students. And I can even deep dive on some of my students. So if I open up Enrico Fermi here, I can get a very quick visual, not only of Enrico's performance, but of Enrico's performance compared to the class average. So you'll see that this particular student scoring 97%, doing much better than the class average, spending a lot less time on average than the class. I also get some measures around discussion posts as a measure of engagement. But you'll see I can see lesson by lesson how the student is doing. And very quickly I can see here that this student is doing better than the class average and not spending that much time. So this is a high-performing student. Probably more interesting and impactful, or at least is what we hear from instructors, is our engagement measure. We have a tremendous amount of data about students. We know how well they're doing, we know how much time they're spending, we know when they're spending their time. So we are going to break down for you how well your students are engaged. And this is a direct flow on from the score. So the first question we get from instructors is, how well are my students doing? The next question is, well, what am I supposed to do about it? Or what can I do about it? So your class will be broken down into 3 cohorts here. On track means that they're scoring above 70%, which is the threshold that's set here. That can be changed if you'd like, but it's preset to 70%. So students that are on track to pass. And then for students who are not on track to pass, they're either going to show up as struggling or disengaged. Struggling students are those who are spending time in the application. They're putting in the work, they're putting in the effort, but they're still not doing well. As opposed to disengaged students. Disengaged students are simply not spending the time. And we hear from instructors all the time that if a student is putting in the effort and putting in the work, that the instructor will do whatever they can to get the student past the class, as opposed to the disengaged student that may just need a good kick. So you can click on that, and you can, again, see how your students are breaking down. And you can see that you've got these 4 students who are struggling. You can email them here. So they'll be emailed in a BCC email, so they don't know who each other, they don't know each other. It's entirely FERPA compliant, but you can email those students. And you might say, we see this a lot, either that reminding them that you're having office hours, or if they need to reach out to you, they can, but providing some positive feedback to those students that are struggling and putting in the effort. Conversely, the disengaged students may get a more curt email that says, hey, I see you haven't been spending a lot of time in the past couple of weeks. You probably want to come in and spend some time if you want to pass this course. I'm not going to go through all of the other data in here, but there's a tremendous amount of information. As I said, everything is clickable. So around how students are scoring lesson by lesson, the amount of time they're spending, the number of students that have logged in. The one thing I am going to highlight down here is you'll see the alerts. So built in is something we call Junction Beacon. It is an early alert system. Again, because we know what students are doing, we have a lot of information about how we could possibly help them. So about once a week, students who opt in, well, again, students must opt into this, and they will receive, if they opt in, they will receive an email and an SMS. And the SMS is critical because students don't really read emails. But if it's an SMS, they will read it. And students will get, about once a week, a message based off of their performance, whether they're a high performer or whether they're struggling. They will get a message reminding them about their coursework. If they're doing really well, they'll get a keep up the good work kind of message. If they're struggling, they will get a positive message trying to encourage them. If they have not logged in, they may get a little bit more of a pointy message reminding them that they need to log in. But hitting students when they're not thinking about nursing informatics, when they're not thinking about school, is a great way to trigger with them, hey, maybe I need to get back in and I need to do this. That's right, I need to take that quiz. I needed to do something. So it's a really good way to actually remind students and get them thinking about schoolwork and course material when they might not otherwise be thinking about that. So with that, I've gone through the student experience, much of the instructor experience. Happy to open this up now to some questions. If there's interest, we can go through a couple of the other things around single sign-on or implementation. We'll see what some of the folks on the line think. If you'd like, and maybe while you're starting to add your questions, the other thing that I can go through here, if you are interested, which I will go through here, I know there's always a lot of conversation about integration with LMSs. So let me just jump out in front of that question. Yes, we are LTI compliant. We work with any LTI compliant LMSs, that's Canvas, Blackboard, D2L, Schoology, Sakai, Moodle, and we have integrated with all of them at various different levels. The way that most schools integrate is what we call single sign-on. So you'll see here, this is an instance of Canvas. I've got a couple of links so I can deep dive into the course to any particular lesson, or I can simply log in. From a student perspective and from an instructor perspective, what this looks like is you set this link up in Canvas, which is relatively straightforward. Click on your link here. You then launch your application in a new page, and you'll see that I am automatically logged in and taken directly to my course homepage. This is a different course. It's the same course shell, but this would drop students into your particular course section. The first time they log in, they will be asked to validate their account and agree to terms of service. Depending on how your course is set up, they may be asked to pay. The note about payment is that we do offer the ability for students to get a grace period at the front of the term. So students can access the course material day one, this inclusive access notion, not necessarily built into the bursar, but students can access the course material from day one and don't need to pay from day one, so they will have a grace period at the front end of the course to go through the material. If they if they drop the course, they could theoretically drop the course before they've paid, so it eliminates a lot of challenges here. And eliminates, more importantly, students that say, I'm not going to pay for this right away because I don't know if I'm going to keep the course. And then 2 weeks in are now 2 weeks behind everybody else on their class. So with that, let me open this back up to questions. And I will pass this back to Jen. I think Jen is managing the questions online. So Jen, any questions come up? Certainly happy to answer any of those right now.
Absolutely. Great. Thanks so much, Derek. That was a great in-depth overview. And as I've been, sitting here listening to the presentation, we've had some great questions come in. So just first one right off the top, who keeps the videos updated, and do you have the ability as an instructor to add your own?
Great question. So the videos are updated and monitored by Junction and Jones Bartlett. So Junction, we've been, as I mentioned, we're an OER courseware provider. So we have a number of basically introductory courses that are OER delivered. So we're very familiar with the OER space. We've got a lot of experience in selecting videos that are high quality, academically appropriate, and as you mentioned, will not come down. So we've gotten pretty good at identifying that. But videos do come down for any number of reasons, and we do monitor that constantly. When videos go down, we will select appropriate videos, and we'll work with the Jones and Bartlett subject matter experts to make sure that from a content perspective, they are relevant to the content and appropriate for a college level audience for this course. So there's a process where that will happen. The second part of that question, yes, the entire course is entirely customizable. And that means, I'll talk through about where this happens a lot. You can add, so you saw when we were on the video page that there were maybe 5 or 6 videos. You can absolutely add videos there if you'd like. Where we see a lot of the customization is at the very front end of a lesson. A lot of instructors like to record themselves. Maybe 5 minutes of, hey, this coming lesson is on cognitive informatics. What we're going to be talking about in class is this. As you go through the material, what you should be focusing on is this, and whatever it is, but it's the short introduction from you, the instructor. And those can be put on individual pages at the front end of every single lesson if you'd like. So you have the ability to change things on a page. You have the ability to change pages themselves. You also have the ability, and I'll mention this, to actually change the entire course structure. And I don't necessarily mean reordering things, but as an example, if you teach this course over 2 terms and you don't want the second half to appear, then that can be done quite simply. If you skip certain chapters, or if you teach chapters in perhaps a different order, they can be reordered to meet your syllabus rather than having your syllabus change to meet the courseware. So customization is available at a whole number of levels.
Thanks, Derek. A couple of other questions. You might have already touched on this, but maybe you could just review the Canvas integration, a little bit of information about that, and also does the gradebook migrate over into Canvas as well?
Yep. So let me go back to the Canvas board. So yes, so we are LTI compliant, so we follow the LTI spec. So what that means is, as you can see here, so these are links that are added to Canvas. They're external tools, and we have instructions on how to set these up. At just about every institution we've worked with, instructors do have the credentials to do this. There are a few institutions where they don't like to allow instructors the ability to set these up. But for the most part, instructors can do this. The links can be set. So in this case, if you were using links like this out of Canvas or Blackboard or any other LMS, you would not need to provide students any login information. All they would need is this link dropped into their Canvas course. And you see that I'm on the modules page, so I can drop this anywhere I like. The registration is automatic. It uses the Canvas credentials that a student has and automatically logs them in. You can drop to the course homepage. You could also do what's called deep linking. So you see here that I'm going to drop into lesson 4. So when I click this, instead of being taken to the course homepage, I'm taken to this lesson on cognitive science and cognitive informatics. So you have the option to not only take students to just the course, but if you want to drop them onto certain pages, you can. We see that for things like higher stakes assessments. I didn't mention this before, but there is a midterm and a final built into the application. So what some instructors might do is build a link here in Canvas to the midterm, and students can drop directly into the midterm, which they wouldn't otherwise be able to access in Junction. If you're dropping students directly into assessments and assignments, the grades do push right back into Canvas. You obviously have to set them up as an assignment in Canvas with the appropriate points and the due dates as you would normally in Canvas, but you'd assign each one of those as basically, instead of building the quiz in Canvas, you would just call it an external tool, drop in the link to an external tool, and when students take that, the grade does indeed push back to the Canvas gradebook. We also allow the gradebook. Our gradebook can be downloaded as a CSV file. So there's a upload function within Canvas and Blackboard and all of the LMSs where scores can be uploaded through a CSV file. So that's an option available to you as well. If you're interested, we have a guide on how to set up these links within Canvas. When you register for a course, and I don't know if you've seen any of this information or Jenna shared this, but when you request access to a course, once you're approved as an instructor, you'll get an email that actually has the 3 pieces of information, the 3 codes that you'll need to set up single sign-on within your LMS. If you'd like the guide on how to set up single sign-on, you'll see that my email is at the end of this presentation. You can send me an email and we'll share that document with you on how to set up a single sign-on. Like the whole process takes about maybe 5 minutes, maybe less.
Thanks, Derek. And in just a few minutes, I will go ahead and share that link. Just a couple of other questions I wanted to address. We did get the question on pricing. So the price per student for this product is $64. And another question that we got is how this is associated with the textbook. So the textbook is sold separately, but the idea behind this course is that it can be used standalone and has all of the content. If you would like to review different options for using the course plus the text, I do recommend that you reach out to your sales rep. And at the conclusion of this meeting, the account managers will be notified that you did attend this webinar and will be reaching out to you. So if you have questions about that, that would be a great time to talk about that, and that would be with your account manager. Another question that we've been getting throughout the hour is related to the level. So the level for this textbook in terms of content, it's geared toward those students who are enrolled in higher level BSN programs. This text also is pretty flexible in the way the content is written, and it can also be used as a refresher at an MSN level as well. So kind of dual flexibility there. So at this point, give me just 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and share out that registration link for anybody else, and then we'll go back to the questions as well. So as Derek mentioned, this is the form that you want to fill out It's a bit.ly link that I just sent. That will bring you to a landing page and will allow you to request course access so that you can check out the course. So if anybody else has any questions, we will stay on the line for a few more minutes. And I think that really covered it in terms of some of the additional questions that we received throughout the hour. Derek, anything else that you think that faculty should know when they're adopting this course?
I think, as you're going through this, right, think about how you want to deliver your course, and if there are things about the courseware that don't exactly fit, just think about, other ways to use this. This is about taking all this wonderful content that you've created at Jones Bartlett Learning, take the flexibility of an online tool, and making sure that you can teach the course the way you want to teach it as easily as you can. So if there are things that you're thinking of, please don't hesitate to send us an email, ring up. We're happy to discuss how this can be implemented or answer any questions you have.
Derek, I think someone also had a question. I'm not sure if we covered this when we're talking about the LMS integration, about integration with Desire to Learn. Could we just give a quick overview on that?
Sure. Desire to Learn or Brightspace is also an LTI compliant application. So it would work exactly the same way you see in Canvas. The instructions for setting up the link are slightly different. The terminology is slightly different. But it would work the same way, single sign-on. So you can set up students with that single link that they could then click. Or alternatively, and I should mention this as well, you have that option to set up single sign-on from your LMS. You also have the option of just sending students to the website, and they could create an account, and you have a course code, a 6-digit course code that they would use to register for the course. So you don't need to use single sign-on if you don't want to. Lots of professors do, lots of professors don't. But any LTI compliant LMS will work exactly the way you'd see Canvas. So it's Canvas, Blackboard, Desire to Learn, Brightspace, Moodle, Sakai, Schoology, frankly, even some of the homegrown ones we've seen also are all LTI compliant. It seems to be the standard that everybody uses.
Thanks, Derek. One of our faculty is asking if we have other courses within this system. So maybe you could talk briefly about the other courses that you've developed for Jones and Bartlett Learning.
Sure, absolutely. So we have, for Jones and Bartlett Learning, we have this Nursing Informatics course that you see. We have a cyber warfare course, and we also have a Delivering Healthcare in America course. We're continuing looking to build out more, so if there are courses that you're interested in, do let us know. But those are the courses that we have, and then Jones and Bartlett also can assist you if you happen to be teaching any entry level in some of these areas. We do have open educational resource-based courses against intro subject areas, so things like intro psych, intro soc, and things like that, if you happen to be teaching those as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Derek. A quick question about the length of access. And we have one faculty member asking that after the course ends, how long do both the student and the faculty member have access to the course itself?
Yeah, so faculty members have basically access in perpetuity, and we know that you need access to grades and scores and things like that for a long period of time. So instructors have access to all of that. Students have access, when access ends, they can download certain parts of the course, things like their notes and things like that. When they log in, they will see the course in their library, although after the term is up, they will see it as basically completed. If they do, for whatever reason, need to get into the course, there's always ways they can do that, but the term is 180 days. If you do need more than that for whatever reason, if there's something about how your school delivers the program, just let us know, and we can talk about ways to adjust that. But as an instructor, you basically have access for as long as you need. Students get access and then some download options for things.
And I have a few people telling me, thanks, Derek, just that link is not working. So let me just test it really quickly. And while I do that, I'm just going to address the pricing question again. So the price per student for the course is $64.95, and that's for the length of time that Derek just mentioned. And the instructor doesn't pay for that. It's we pay, the student actually pays. So everyone that wants access pays for that. So let me just try that link one more time. Perhaps we copied it incorrectly. And this link will give you access to check it out, try it before you want to adopt it. So, yep. Yeah, okay, I just tried it. It does seem to be working. So I just encourage you to just copy and paste the whole string, just in case you didn't grab the entire link.
Yeah, and if there's any issues, you'll see my email address on screen right now. You can shoot me an email. I'll send you a link over email if that's easier.
Excellent. Well, we don't have any more questions. And Derek, I really want to thank you for joining us here today, and for demoing this really innovative product. And just want to call everyone's attention again. Derek has left his email up there, and you will receive a follow-up email with, the registration link, Derek's contact information, and then a link to our YouTube channel. We have been recording this session, and it will be live on our channel tomorrow. So if you'd like to view it again, or if you want to share it with any of your colleagues, please feel free to do so. We're really excited about this product, and I want to thank everyone for joining, and have a great rest of the day.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay. Thanks, Derek. Take care. Bye-bye.